We have this tweet from Yuengling Brewery. I have to because we talked about the music cafe presented by Yuengling having an all ages drag show that allowed babies. And we're big fans of Yuengling. And so we were concerned. We were like, say it ain't so. Say you're not sponsoring a drag show that allows babies. Well, Yuengling has responded. They said, Yuengling has been a supporter of Arts Quest for many years, along with over 300 local community supporters. We're proud to be a part of their efforts to revitalize an industrial neighborhood in Bethlehem, PA. Through our Arts Quest sponsorship, we have naming rights to the Music Fest Cafe presented by Yuengling venue. Arts Quest independently plans the events and policies that take place at this venue and all of their other performance areas. Yuengling actively promotes responsible drinking for patrons 21 years of age and older. We are working to align with Arts Quest regarding appropriate age restrictions for venues associated with our sponsorship. We support their decision to restrict attendance to 18 plus for the June 30th show. For more information, contact info@artsquest.org. That, my friends, is how you handle it. I do not care about a drag show at all. I am concerned that that the slippery slope it persists as such that we got to the point where they're like, let's have gay burlesque shows, but allow children and babies. And even if Yuengling didn't know the event was happening, they put their name on this. So Yuengling, what do they do? I would make this assumption. This is what it seems to me. It seems like Yuengling, seeing the response, reached out to them and said, guys, it's got to be adults only, and got them to do it. Yeah. And that is exactly what should have happened. I'm remarkable. I'm massively impressed. I'm going to go buy more Yuengling. This was fantastic. Just keep it for adults. Absolutely.
This was an intense... Such a common sense thing also that it's
so easy.
Hey,
so easy.
You're an alcohol pavilion, so it's 21 up. Yeah. Let's just call it a day. Like, this was an enormous relief to me because Yuengling is the only beer I know to order at bars because they're vaguely conservative and I know how to say their name. I thought, although someone yesterday told me it was Youngling.
I don't know about that.
You.
The bartenders always tell me Yuengling.
Yeah, I don't believe it. But I think this is a nice statement, partially because it's so calm. Like, we don't need to make a big statement in either direction. We say, this is alcohol, it's inappropriate, leave it at that. And again, I feel similarly to Tim. I don't care what you're doing, in appropriately set age groups, right? I don't think children should be at drag shows. But if you want to have a drag show at a bar, that's fine. It shouldn't be harder for an 18-year-old to get into a bar than to get, or like a 17-year-old to get into a bar than to get into a drag show, right? Like, it is weird to me that we would suddenly take away this line, but of course we saw it happening with all of these drag queen story hours. Yeah. There became this idea that in some way this culture was acceptable to have in a family setting, when we ultimately all know it's not. And I don't understand why this is the hill that this movement is dying on.
They can win it. Sorry, go ahead.
There was a story today.
Yuengling.
There was a story today in which Warner Brothers Discovery sponsors Outfest, which is a gay film festival, and they're having what's called Celebration of Queer Children, which will include Story Hour. And I asked the question, I said, why is it that every time Disney hosts one of these things or Disney throws their hat in the ring in this, everyone goes up in arms? But did you know that Warner Brothers Discovery has a higher ESG score than Disney? Why is it that people don't care as much when Warner Brothers Discovery does it? But that's because a lot of people think it's because Disney is specifically geared towards kids. Yeah. So it feels more predatory.
And I'm going to say, I don't think anyone could tell you what Warner Brothers does. Like,
Disney
is so much more commercial.
Enterprise.
It's much easier to attack as a target. It's not okay that Warner Brothers does it. It's just
but I'm
easy
saying,
to identify.
Like so this is a whole event, and they're going to have a whole section that's dedicated to queer children, to celebrating queer children,
to sexualizing children.
Yes.
Because that's what the end goal is. Well, because if you think about it, if they'll go after the most extreme thing, because if they can get you to be okay with that, what could they not get you to be okay with? I think that's the next step. I always said it, like, people used to call me crazy. I'm like, the first thing you know about someone, if their body washes up on a beach, is their biological sex. It's undeniable.
No,
you don't know their age.
The article recently where an archaeologist said it's not good science.
I know.
Did you see that?
I saw that, which is absolutely crazy. So how far-fetched is it to believe that the next thing they say is, well, age is totally self-identifiable too. It's actually far more subjective. Like, there's 18-year-olds who act 25. There's 25-year-olds who act 18 on a much more obvious level than, you changing your biological sex.
Well, I have to go.
There was a guy who tried to legally change his age, and they told him no.
It's coming, though.
I have to go back to we should be pushing a culture that isn't obsessed with looking at the self all the time, right? Like if your kid, you think maybe gay, whatever, how about you ask them, how are your math scores? How about you ask them what their hobbies are? How about you ask them literally anything else instead of obsessing about who they may or may not want to sleep with when they become consenting adults? Like, it's just bizarre to me that parents feel the need to become weirdly involved in their children's sexuality when they are minors.
Or teachers involved in
That's weirder, but
this is the awfuls.
Yeah.
This is the affluent white female liberals.
Well, you know what it's become?
Thanks,
It's become
God.
just it started off with the slow obsession over identity politics. This is just an end result of hierarchical identity politics. If that's where your hierarchies in society are generated from, because we're going to have hierarchies no matter what, you're going to have a problem. And again, my buddy told me something interesting one time when I was on this pathway to searching for religion. He said humans are designed to worship. They're always going to worship something. If they're not going to worship something bigger than themselves, they're going to worship their job. They're going to worship their, alcohol, sex, whatever that thing is. And right now we have a society that is completely worshiping the very thing you're talking about, identity. And so we have an absolute religion around transgenderism right now. Not even LGB. It's T. We have a religion around the T, because we've completely erased a lot of lesbians. Because now, if you're a lesbian,
ask
you're just
Johns Hopkins University.
Yeah, did you see J.K. Rowling trolling them over the?
They disavowed it. They said they didn't mean to do anything wrong.
Sure.
What happened there? I didn't hear.
Johns Hopkins University had a glossary of like different terms for sexuality and gender, and it said a lesbian was a non-man who loves other
A non-man attracted to
attracted
non-man.
to. I would say loved.
And that's really important.
Yeah.
Because magnets are attracted to each other, and they're not men.
They're lesbians.
Right.
But they left the term men in the definition of gay. And so you're just erasing lesbians.
Yes, it's
you
so
are not
weird.
erasing gay men. And J.K. Rowling, was like, I think we should all talk about this.
It's just the patriarchy reasserting itself.
I have to wonder, and now you see the story
It's a
about...
weird way to do it, though.
It
You
is
saw,
a weird
you saw
way.
how they made embryos using stem cells? You saw
Just
the story?
recently, yeah, like a day or two ago.
So I'm kind of like, look, if they can make embryos using stem cells, and they can grow farm animals in plastic bags, how far away are we from humans just no longer giving birth?
Yeah.
And they just say from now on, like, I really do think there is a potential future, if we lose this culture war, where there's going to be like two, 35-year-old women, and one's going to be like, no, tell me you're not serious. Unnatural birth, you are going to destroy your body.
That's already happening. C-sections are on the rise in the U.S. And
But I mean, not even that. They're going to be like, use a pseudo womb.
Yeah.
What are you
no,
nuts?
that's
Do
what
it-
I mean.
do a test tube baby.
I'm arguing to your point. I think we are moving in that direction already. They are saying you should not have a natural birth. You should always have. There's always reasons that doctors are pushing for C-sections these days, whether it be risk, whether it be, there might be this issue, or like this is just more controlled. We'll know when the baby's coming, and it's something that people are becoming normalized to.
Now, hold on. If we get to that point, and we are also very close to the designer baby period, China has already had several stories about super soldier program where they're genetically modifying humans to make them more resilient, more robust, stronger, taller, etc. If people then start going to their doctors to plan for their babies, and the doctors outright say, we no longer need women to have babies, when people are choosing the traits for their kids, what is the reason they would choose a woman? I mean that sincerely. I'm not saying there isn't one. I'm saying, what do you guys think they would say? Because I feel like when it comes to strength, height, social status, and this is coming from the left perspective of patriarchy, parents are going to be like, let's just choose a boy.
So there are certain, obviously, benefits to, like, women have historically always been better at certain things like creating communities, empathy, and those things will still need to exist in society.
Of course. But I think in the short term, you're going to have parents being like very liberal, very leftist, but going, but we do know that patriarchy is real, so let's not subject a daughter to that. Let's have a young boy.
There'll be quotas.
Or they'll have a girl
Maybe.
who then they want to transition to be a boy.
But
that's what I'm actually
It's just
talking
a
about.
boy with extra steps.
Or we'll literally get to the point where you just don't have genitalia. You're just completely non-binary, a true non-binary.
Maybe that one's a ways off, but
Yeah.
I do think the first step before that is you will likely just see parents being like, boys are going to be easier. let's just deal with that. We don't need to worry about grandkids anymore.
I sort of think the opposite. I think there's so much antipathy towards men that people are more likely to be angry about having male babies. I've had people say to me like, oh, I really wouldn't want to have a boy. Like, a boy? Are you kidding me? Like, there is a lot of anti-man sentiment that starts when you're having a boy.
And fair point. It may go the other way. It may be parents being like, we don't want to make the patriarchy worse. Let's have a girl.
Or provide more toxic masculinity to the world. I think
real quick, if they move in the direction of only girls, there could be a potential future where the planet is 97% female, and the scientists and the presidents and the military, they're like, we need to find men. There's just no Y chromosomes everywhere. And then some genetic disease will start impacting the population, and they'll be like, where are the men? And then like guys will be like hiding in a cave because they want to take their genetics or something. Sci-fi movie. How about that?
Playing Xbox in a cave.
Where is this second movie? That sounds fascinating. I would watch that.
So
Instead, it's always like the male patriarchy is oppressing us women.
Isn't there a decay though of our I read there's a decay of the chromosomes.
I think it's plastics. Testosterone's dropping, sperm count's dropping, the chromosomes breaking up. I think it's plastics.
Also, in terms of
electromagnetism.
Yeah,
but also constantly surrounded by Wi-Fi and computers. Sorry, Brad.
But in the terms of what we're talking about with births and natural births and stuff like that, when you talk about what we were talking about earlier, which is the worship of self, we're seeing the rise of surrogacy because they don't want to actually have kids themselves. They want to pay somebody else to have the kid for them. So it's like no matter what way you go, you're not having a natural birth at all. And then we have people coming out saying they're having a harder time connecting with those kids because they didn't actually pair bond with them in the same way. And that's on the rise every bit as much. And oddly enough, also only available to the super wealthy or to the people that can afford it.
The thing, it bothers me so much that people didn't realize it would be hard to bond with children that you didn't carry, because we have had centuries of adoption, right? Like this is something that we are still doing. There are always children who need homes. And if you look into it for even a second, this is something everyone talks about, that it's not easy, but you have to build a bond with a child you adopt at any age. And the fact that we would be so arrogant to be like, well, I specifically paid for this child, so of course I'll love it and it'll love me. Like, that's
it's
bananas.
a designer. It's like you're saying, it's a designer child. You go pick it up.
It's like saying your dog doesn't like you. Like I bought this puppy. Why doesn't it like my house? It's crazy.
Yep.
It's very scary when you disconnect yourself completely from the reality of your actions.
Another thing pushed by the media, the decay of actually supporting families that bond with each other, right? Like I said, chosen family. They want you to go and choose your family based on whatever your immutable characteristics are outside of your biological connection to someone else. It's about what you look like or who you have sex with. That's what they seem to think matters to people.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.